Hi Danielle,
Hi, Mel.
how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
Well, I'm excited. We're moving into a very different card this week, aren't we? The Chariot.
Yeah, this is definitely a shift in energy, that's for sure. We've
Yeah.
been working on our inner self, creating our inner world, recognizing the power that we hold within us, recognizing the leadership roles that we have in this world and the duality of our nature. And now we're starting to really have some drive in what it is that we're looking to accomplish. And this is, obviously the Chariot card's going to come up for us on repeat anytime we reach this position in life, depending on what it is you're focused on. So, with this Chariot card, it's not a masculine or feminine energy. It's pretty androgynous in that way. Um, it's a card of pure connection of opposites, hence the lack of sexing the card at this point.
Mm.
So you're looking at um, when you look at the card, the original card, it's got sphinx on it, and one's a white colored sphinx and one's a dark colored sphinx. And if you take note, the high priestess also has the white pillar and then the black pillar on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're learning as we're shifting through these cards is, you're in a seat on a chariot, and what's leading you is this spiritual nature, which is the light and the dark. And so if you go too far one way, you're going to come off course. If you go too far the other way, you're going to go off course. Therefore, what we're teaching you on the backside of the Lover's card is to embrace our dual nature. And then this will allow us to push forward in the direction we are meant to go while trusting the guidance that's, we can say it's within us or outside of us, the spiritual nature of it. And so when we hit up the Chariot card, we're really starting to focus on the connection of the opposites, of this polarization, and bringing it into this more dual existence that we do live in. Um, yeah. So the element to the Chariot card is water. So you're thinking flow. When you're in the flow of things are going in alignment, things are staying on course. It's when we fight the flow that we tend to veer off course. When we start to look into maybe our love and light without doing the shadow work. You can think of it that way. You're not really progressing. You're just sitting there happily ignoring. And if you just focus on the shadow work without realizing that there is love behind every lesson that we're learning, you're going too far into this abyss, this darkness that you can't see the light in. So between the two polar opposites here, we're able to divine this connection that we wouldn't otherwise have.
And the Sphinx, even though they represent it's the black and white, it's the power and determination of the warrior that's in the chariot that's being pulled forward, because if we're looking at the card as representing us, we're being pulled forwards with a lot of force and determination. And but we have to harness that energy. And the way to harness that is through focus, is through self-discipline,
Yeah,
is through taking action, isn't it?
because those two sphinx don't have any reins on them.
Yeah.
They're free to do as they wish. And so it is up to your will, your determination to direct those sphinx in the right direction without the use of reins, which is all within us. It's all about our determination and our willpower to succeed in this destination we've set for ourselves, where we decided where we're going to point the arrow, where it's going to land. Go ahead.
Well, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Chariot is all about overcoming external challenges and gaining victory through maintaining control of your surroundings, allowing victory in any circumstances. So we've discussed this several times where we can have external factors and they can be irritating. And sometimes they're not avoidable. Sometimes we have to go to this situation. Sometimes as we're creating these new boundary lines inside of our world, we have these circumstances, these situations that come up that could make us easily slide back from the work that we've already been putting in. And when the chariot comes forward, it's allowing you the insight of knowing that you are in control of yourself, and you are in control of your dual nature, and you are able, no matter what the circumstances that are presenting itself externally, you are able to take control of your psyche, of your well-being, and come forward. You're what's bringing in the darkness and letting the darkness out. You're what's bringing in the light and pushing the light out. You are responsible and in control of that. And that there's no way that you cannot be victorious in a situation if you're in control of your inner being, if you're in control of your inner thoughts and emotions during this process.
Yeah, so you're channeling, really, aren't you? Your own inner power, your dedication, your focus, and your strength, which when you go in that direction, you know, if you read anything about what makes people successful and get the outcomes that they want, it's pure focus, dedication, discipline, courage, and just getting up every day, just doing it, not just putting that focus in there.
Because, you know, we talk about these things that make people victorious and very, you know, in whatever field, you know, I'm going to use career specifically because it's the field I'm currently inside of. And, you know, it's only 25% of that is hard work. So there's 75% sitting there that requires some different type of effort that isn't just the physical work. So what are those things? Are the things that you just listed, right? We have to have some conscientiousness to this. We have to be able to be aware of ourselves, aware of what the drive is, aware of what it is that we're trying to accomplish, very clear in how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about the environment we're in, how we feel about the world we're trying to create around us. And this Chariot card really allows you to see in a very, if you just look at the card in a very plain view, that there's not a lot of hard work you have to put in it. You're already on the chariot. You already have the things that are driving the carriage in front of you. There's not any reins on that. So there's some mental acuity that has to be performed here. There's some heart and soul that has to come into this in order for it to really work in your favor, to really be able to exist in a world that is, you know, filled with obstacles and what we could consider naysayers. And you are responsible for your interaction in that and how you're going to move ahead from it. And the Chariot card really comes forward and allows you to know that you have the ability to be both light and dark, and how you decide to use those together is what's going to propel you forward for the next set of lessons that you're about to learn.
So sometimes if you look at this card, not everybody does it on a reverse level, but if you find things challenging and you feel yourself being pulled in a direction and it feels really difficult, it's an opportunity to really review what that's about and then decide, because we talk about values, don't we? And if you decide what it is that matters to you most, that is an inner drive and impulse and way forward without too much effort. And like what you say with the flow is where you're just totally aligned and it just propels you forward. And
there's not a lot of effort in there. You did the work to get into the flow. Now you get to release and surrender to the flow. The ruling planet of the Chariot is the moon, which tells a very strong storyline of what the Chariot really represents, because the moon is our unconscious self. The moon is how we navigate the darkness, the things that we can't quite see clearly. And what is it that you're allowing to navigate? We've been really, through this Major Arcana, we've been really dredging up this unconscious behaviors and bringing it to the surface, right? Now the Chariot's showing you in a very real way what is moving you forward. Is it this darkness that's moving you forward, or is it this lightness? Is one out of balance with the other? Are you allowing yourself to come into more of a balance and push forward in equal measure? Are you releasing to the flow? Are you allowing yourself the space to dig a little deeper inside of this unconscious behavior that you have and ask yourself this hard questions like, why am I doing these things? Or is this something you're just kind of like, just, okay, this is just who I am. This is how I'm going to be. And although this always ends in disaster, I'm going to continue to repeat this pattern, repeat this cycle. There is a lot of questions that we can ask ourselves inside of the chariot when it comes into view in a psychology perspective, outside of just reading cards.
Well, it was interesting because when we were preparing for this podcast, I got the card out and I started reading, what the meaning was that was ascribed to it. And I was thinking about, that sometimes the energy can start to feel like that you've been pulled in that direction. And sometimes you can start to get into that flow and allow yourself to go forward and be focused and be decisive and do that. But you can find sometimes that blocks and challenges come in the way. And I'd noticed this over the last few days. It was like I'd made the decision to work on a couple of things to do in my project outside of my day job. And all of a sudden, people that I hadn't seen for ages turned up or contacted me. The phone started ringing. And it just felt like all of these external distractions were coming along. And the challenge then, which relates to this card, is knowing that then you've got to assert yourself and be courageous. Because if you want to be in the flow and you want to make good use of that energy propelling you forward, you can't allow sometimes what look like insignificant distractions to pull you in any other direction, because you need to harness that energy fully for the use that it's got, whatever that thing is that you're working on. And that's where maybe you get the best benefit of that card. So it can make us sort of either realize what happens every time. So say like a common one is, I've always wanted to do a particular course. Say you wanted to learn a certain type of cookery. And every time you attempt to sign up for that course, either your card doesn't work, or the person that you want to get hold of isn't available, or somebody says, can you do something on exactly the day of the week that you're meant to do that course? And then it's like, okay, do I go and do that thing with that friend because I don't want to let them down? Or do I really allow myself to move in that direction because that's what matters most? I really want to learn to cook. I really want to do those things. And I think that's quite a common one for people, the same with going to the gym.
Yeah. I mean, we have this tendency to, a lot of us have this tendency to people please, like, living in that moment and then forgetting that yourself in that moment. And, if you have goals that you're wanting to reach, those goals, those are so important for your well-being. They're so important for your growth. And the more we put our stuff to the side to appease another person, the more we're shifting into this shadow realm, the shadow sphinx that wants to divert you down one side. And the more that we accept that these are things that we want, accept that it is okay to want to further your experience in a new way, the more we set up boundaries, the more we recognize that we are empowered, the more this starts to even itself out, allows itself to kind of say, hey, now you're back in the flow again, right? Of course, this can also go the opposite direction, where you're just so busy focused on you and your wants and the things that and your whatever to everybody else. Well, now you're too on the light side. You're too in this, like, I'm just going to the light. It's just about me and the world is revolving around me kind of thing, right? I have this saying, like, I know you're the sun in your world, but I'm the sun in mine, and that person's the sun in there. So we're going to have to learn to work together. And, that's very important for people to understand that we can go to love and light, and we can go to shadow, but there's a nice medium in there where you can really just appease yourself and find this true joy, peace, happiness, whatever it is you're chasing, and allow that to kind of build around you. I mean, not everything needs to be said yes to, but not everything needs to be said no to either, right? It's part of the lesson plan, part of what we're learning. And when the Chariot is in reverse, it's not a scary reverse. Chariot is just simply telling you, hey, by the way, it's okay for you to have obstacles, but here's where your obstacles are. And maybe it's time to get focused on that. And then those obstacles will start to release themselves, start to, dissolve a little bit so that you can move forward into that flow again. You're not running into rocks every half mile down the river.
Because I think the points that you make are really useful ones for people to realize, because we're all different. And it may be for some people have never really thought about some of the things that they've really wanted to do. And sometimes there are windows of opportunity in energy, aren't there? That energy can shift and change. And once this energy starts to gather momentum, it can really effortlessly sort of take you towards experiencing or doing some of those things that you've wanted to do, or to create the project, or to turn the idea into a book, into a course, or whatever it is that you're working on. And that always has to sit within the balance of your wider life, just as exactly what you're saying. So one of the sort of tricks I do is, in order to have the balance, I think about, okay, who are the people in my life that, obviously you want to give some time to? What time slots do I want to allocate for focusing and using this energy on this project? Because once you've got flow in several areas of your life, it can work better in tandem, but it can require you to be a bit more organized and a bit more thoughtful about how you manage those different aspects and navigate that. Because once the energy starts to shift, you want to harness it and utilize it. So like the way that you were talking, previous to where we were seeing, Mercury in retrograde, well, I was really pushing on some doors on my projects, really struggling to get some things moving. Once the energy starts to shift, I know that's the time to capitalize on it. That's the time to go into the flow. That's the time to go, right, okay, I'll make that call. I'll do that. It's a bit like we were talking earlier off air, that sometimes the traffic lights are just green and you can keep driving and there are nothing coming in the way of that. Other times you're trying to get somewhere and its traffic light is red, 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 or you notice your petrol gauge is low or something. So there's something about being prepared, being organized, having a level of balance in your life so that you can then go into this flow without either into resistance because you think, I'm not ready, I can't do it. Because it could be a new job that turns up, couldn't it? It could be that all of a sudden tomorrow and actually it happened in one of the workplaces I work with. All of a sudden somebody's gone for a job somewhere else. It involves doing a training course. They had to move 300 miles. They got the job, moved house, started at the university and changed location, all of those things within a week.
Oh, wow.
They just went for it. They had some anticipation and anxiety around it, but they kind of had enough of a knowing to override the anxiety and not perceive that as meaning, no, I shouldn't do it.
And knowing and trusting. Yeah.
And they went into trust. And they said to me, I'm now living the most beautiful life I couldn't even conceive of.
Yeah.
And that was within a week. And even though they had to grapple with some of the decisions that they'd made that had where they'd ended up supporting other family members, and it was very hard for them to change their mind and go in this direction, and it was a completely different direction. It had turned out to be some of the best decisions they've made. So it was fascinating to watch this shift unfold at this
to be able to observe that, it's what an honor, right?
Massively.
So the universe always holds when we release and we go into the flow and we allow ourselves to stay inside of a balance. The universe it never fails to surprise you, and it always surprises you in the most beautiful ways, just like the story that you just said. When we talk Chariot, there are a few questions that I like to ask. The question is, where is the movement in the situation I'm facing, and where is the stagnation? What is in alignment and cooperative? What do I need to be victorious for this situation? And then how do I transcend my current placement? Now, these questions, a lot of the questions that I ask through these typically open the door to new questions. This one, of course, these are going to be the same. However, these are more direct answers that are, when you answer these, they're just a little bit more direct. And then it kind of opens up a stream of, how can I step into that flow? How can I step out of my own way? I like to use the deity Ganesh as the inspiration I use to go forward. He's the clearer of obstacles. So I will call in Ganesh at that point and say, hey, how is it that I can move forward from this stagnant or these obstacles that keep presenting? And Ganesh's answer to me is always get out of your own way. Because the moment you release the need to control and power move through every situation in your life, and you allow things to be, and you allow the insights to come, and you work as needed, that 25%, then you're able to really move ahead in a way that is not you stopping you. It's like pushing yourself into yourself, and you're not going anywhere. So, with the Chariot, just really ask yourself those questions, allow yourself a moment to really let them soak in, and then begin to answer those questions for yourself. And then if it leaves you with even more questions, allow yourself the time to answer them. You might not even answer them in one night. It might take you several weeks, because when we hit our obstacles, when we hit that Chariot in reverse, it really is time to take yourself back a step and view yourself from a different position and ask yourself, why am I not trusting? Why am I not trusting myself or the universe? Being that it's a reflective world, the more you trust yourself, the more you trust the divine counterpart that is this universe allowing you to step forward. It's a pattern. And if you slow down and pay attention and get in the flow, you'll begin to see what that pattern looks like. And you just start stepping towards that pattern. You might not have the whole puzzle available to you, but you can start to fit the puzzle pieces together. And that's really exciting, that journey aspect of it.
And one of those questions I think you could share with us in terms of where you've seen the movement.
Oh, where's the movement in the situation? So,
yeah.
So when I get out of my own way, which, it's unconscious most of the time, we don't mean to be in our own way. It's not like I'm stopping myself here. For me, the movement is when I'm starting to see things really start to break through. I'm starting to feel, and it's always a feeling that things are starting to align. It's a feeling that, whoa, this is bringing me joy, or there's some hope behind that. And there's not anxiety. There's not a fear base to this. This feels like I'm moving in the right direction. So when I have movement in any of my situations, I'm starting this community group locally, because Mel and I live an entire ocean apart from each other. So we can't do a whole lot of local things together, but I'm starting this community, a local community, where we're just getting together every week and just having these beautiful conversations like Mel and I have. And, I really started noticing the movement when it was like things just kind of aligned. I was looking for a space, and then the space I happened to go to that exact same day that I had this thought in my head presented the perfect space that I needed, right? Am I doing what is this movement that I am trying, this creation that I'm trying to build? Is it working? And then a person sits in front of me and we have this beautiful conversation that opens us up to a deeper level of understanding. So those are the things that I'm talking. I mean, and they, if you don't catch the moment, it will slip. Those are all those signs that you are in alignment to the things, and you're moving ahead in the way you're supposed to, that you're in the flow of what the universe is reflecting back to you and saying, open door here, open door here. And we have to be aware through our journey through this major arcana, which has all been this depth of insight and how it explores the world. This allows you to know that now the Chariot is well on its way. It's forcing the movement forward because I am in alignment and I am balanced within myself, and giving myself that space to to step out of my own way, to step out of the stagnant waters, to allow that movement forward, and things just start to drop in your lap. And that is really how this seems to be working. And I wouldn't be preaching it if I didn't feel it deeply within me. You know, of course, there's no science behind this yet, but there is a law of attraction science. And the law of attraction is, you know, pretty clear cut when, you know, I know that we just talk about the fear side of that in the science, but you know, the things you fear will come up more and more. Well, what about the things that you love and the things that you're destined to do and the things that really bring a little pitter patter to your heart? Like when those start to align, we have to really start being aware and paying attention and saying, oh, that was a sign, that was a gift, that was exactly what I wanted, and be gracious about that. So yeah, so that would be mine.
I think what you're indicating as well really nicely is that we don't always know that there are some signs there that help us realize that we are in alignment. Like you say, is you just find yourself in a particular place sharing an idea and it feels easy. Sometimes things feel too easy that people question, why does it feel easy? Because not everything has to feel challenging. And the right book or the right information or something will turn up. And these are sometimes just little indicators that actually, yeah, you are in that flow, you moved in that direction. What can trip us up is our perceptions of ourselves, of our capabilities, of our confidence, of our past ideas. Or you mentioned something earlier, you know, we're not striking to be perfect. Part of what we're doing is we are, you know, we're practicing our craft. And as long as we can take in the information and tweak it and review it and still stay in that flow and know where to put the brakes on and know where to move forward, but the signs will be there. And if you're not sure, you can say to, you know, the universe, show me some signs that help me see that actually I'm going in the right direction. I'm flowing with the thing that
and I am unashamed at this point of asking the universe to really, I told him I'm going to be like a child. I am going to ask for more signs. I need to see them all the time. And they have delivered every time. Every time I am made aware that there is something here that is happening, that this is important, that this is a moment that I need to collect. And, you know, so you can really ask that question. And, you know, it takes time. The Chariot in reverse is going to happen. And often it's not my first rodeo. You know, I have stood in my own way several times, you know, more times than I care to count or even admit to. But knowing now that, you know, this cycle comes as many times as you need to learn that lesson, and whatever those lessons are, it will continue to come forward. And then one day you're just going to get it. And once you get it, that's when that next cycle of change begins, and you're really ready to step forward and do the things that you're wanting to do. Your destiny is just tied to the things that you want to do, the things that spark your joy. There's no, you know, we don't have to say it's written in stone somewhere or written in the stars. This is just the things that spark you. These are the things that you've talked about doing inside of your head since childhood, or maybe that you watched one time in a movie and you're like, I have to be that. I want to be that. And that's the thing that really ignited your flame. Well, then now you need to figure out the ways to get to that destiny. What is it that, you know, you pointed the arrow, that's where you want it to land. Now, how are you going to get it to there? How are you going to angle it? How, you know, the bow, how are you going to, what's the trajectory on this? How fast do I have to release it? How far back do I need to go? And, you know, for what I was wanting to do, I really had to reach far back. I had to pull back as far as I could, because I needed to heal all of these spaces, because who am I to teach if I'm not healed from the things that I'm teaching? And so for me, I really pushed that. I pulled that bow, that string as far back as it would go, so that I could really, and in that cycle and the layers and layers, I came up against me being unbalanced in a lot of areas, me being unbalanced in too dark, too light, too this, too that, and then realized I can just be all of it, and then allow myself to push forward. And it took many times around the Major Arcana for me to get to this place that I am now. It's not, you know, you do this one round and you're cured and everything's good. No, we're forever healing, forever growing, and growing the wisdom, growing from our past traumas, growing from the person that we once were. And, you know, it takes time depending on what it is that you're going after. Sometimes it is one round. Sometimes it takes 10. it doesn't matter. We don't quit. Once you have this moment of clarity, you want to push forward anyways. And the Chariot really is just a strong card. In the middle of the Chariot, it can be very hard, right? Like,
Yeah.
hard to trust, hard to balance, hard to not be in your own way. But as that Chariot begins to move forward and you start to realize what it takes for this Chariot to work properly, you begin to say, oh my gosh, I have so much power. Let me see how I can get this to work even better, and allow yourself to get deeper in that. And the bigger the dream, the more times you're going to revisit the Chariot, and you just have to carry yourself forward. I really love the Chariot card.
And also, you're talking about the different phases really that people go through. Because if you're very new to something that you're working on, just like when me and you started doing the podcast last year, we were new to all the tech behind it, the platforms, the equipment. And so you're moving forward at baby steps because you're at the infant stage of something. You've sowed the seed, you're starting to take action, but you're still moving forward. And then, like what you say, you get to a phase where you've been round that round several times. Well, you're taking all of the falls and the steps and the getting back up again. And you're constantly sifting and sorting to the point where you get to a level of wisdom where it might not be the same thing that you're working on, but you've gone through several phases already where you've learned a lot about yourself. You've learned what helps and hinders you. And you also learn where you can review and harness some of that learning so that when that energy comes in, and it might be that it's a big moment because the Chariot, like you said, represents victory. It can be representing something big that you've been working on for a long time, and it moves, it could be that you've gone from being a singer standing on a stage in some local bars to all of a sudden you're in the spotlight, you're on the big stage doing concerts. For some people, that's that moment where they're in that flow, and that just changes overnight.
That changed. Yeah. And it has nothing to do with the hard work. Yeah. Because, these overnight successes, there's not an overnight success. You have to align to the energy that you want to be in. And don't get me wrong, some people are naturally kind of aligned. So it feels like they didn't have to do much work, but that's because they've done the work. They were already inside of that flow. And so, for like me, it took me some time to align. It took me some time to get to that flow. You use the infancy, babies fall down all the time when learning to walk, but what do? They get right back up. And they try again. And then one day they're just walking and you forget about the times where they were stumbling after one step. And, and they don't remember that at one point, they couldn't walk. And so this is a journey that we're taking. And the Major Arcana is really good at showing you the journey. And the Chariot's really telling you that in this moment when the Chariot arrives, you've hit a level that most people haven't gotten to in the experience that you're in. So allow yourself that pat on the back, the recognition of self, and then say, okay, where can I align and where can I balance these energies so that I'm not having to do the level of work I am used to having to do, because I have these beautiful Sphinx up in front of me carrying all of the weight for me.
Yeah. And sometimes you can be arriving at a point where it's finessing it. It's finessing what you've been doing. And it's just taken a whole different level.
So that's exciting too. The journey to get there, it's one of those things that I always call my hindsight rule, right? We've heard me talk about this before, is the hindsight rule. And Mel has been really good at teaching me to enjoy the journey and not just focus on the destination, because I am a very destination oriented person. It's just a natural flow of who I am, and learning to stop and really relish in the moments that are important, really relish in the moments that have brought such joy, wisdom, clarity, depth, insight, have been the moments that propelled me forward. And those moments are so needed. So outside of that, I am down to the tarot spread for the Chariot card. All right, perfect. So it's a 3-card spread, and it's, who am I in this situation? What is leading me astray? And what is keeping me in alignment? And allow those cards to kind of read. Obviously, I always tell people that you can clarify any of these cards. Oracle cards are really great clarifiers. And tarot is very situational. and oracle can dive into more of the lesson plan for you, whereas the outline can be in that tarot, and then the depth that you can go, you can start using oracle cards to really get to the heart of the matter. Tarot can be very scary in the beginning. It's just straight to the point. It's that Whoopi Goldberg moment in Ghost, where she's like, "You in danger, girl." It's very serious sometimes. And so if you start to read on top of that, you can obviously do more tarot, or you can just shift into an oracle experience and allow yourself that wisdom to come forward in whatever manner it wants to exist. But yeah, so with the tarot spread, the questions that you ask yourself, it's really a good opportunity for you to find more balance in the experience so that you can propel forward in that flow and not be preventing yourself from being able to move forward and shine as brightly as you deserve to shine.
Yeah, massively. And once you've had a few of those experiences, that's what helps build your confidence and self-esteem
tremendously.
To move forward even more, doesn't it? Well,
yeah, it does.
Thank you for that. I think hopefully everybody that's in the chariot phase, and I think we were talking earlier as well, weren't we, that it also aligns with what's happening with the full moon and the energy that's coming in now.
Yeah, because we're recording this about a week ahead of the full moon in Leo. And the full moon in Leo is really like a chariot. I mean, I know that the moon represents the chariot and the sun represents Leo, but what's better than being a balanced, obvious balance between the sun and the moon, and all about propelling yourself forward, balancing this light that you are into the journey that you're wanting to be on, than the chariot card during the full moon in Leo.
Yeah, so I reckon, anyone who's listening to this as we release it over the next few days, is to really use the time to review and reflect. If you're stuck, have a think about the activities that you can do to get unstuck. And certain yoga positions can do that. Start to get the flow back in the body, because once that energy starts to kick in, you want to be able to flow with that as it moves forward, because it could be very exciting. There's very intense times anyway. And so you probably want to utilize the intensity to propel you forward, rather than to magnify any further deep-seated fears and anxieties. So you're at a choice point with those sphinxes, aren't you?
Yeah, you really hit your choice point at that place. You say yoga, I like to dance, I like to get my saddle going. And, for me, it's like moving in that way has always promoted a lot of confidence, a lot of understanding, a lot of appreciation of my body, appreciation of what it can do for me. And so whatever it is that you choose, be it breath work, meditation, yoga, taking walks in nature, visiting friends, and using that air, that mental clarity of ours, just do it. Allow yourself the space to get it done, because when the chariot approaches, it's time to make those choices. It's time to make the moves. It's time to really find things in balance. So outside of that, I have nothing else on the chariot.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you, Danielle, for bringing us another card of the Major Arcana. And
thank you, Mel.
To the next one. Thank you.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.